The for sale sign lay flat in the back seat, waiting to be hammered into the front yard like a final nail in the coffin of my father's memory. I sat behind the wheel of his 1995 Honda Civic, breathing in the lingering scent of his Old Spice aftershave and the wintergreen mints he always kept in the cup holder, trying to summon the courage to let go of the last piece of him I could still touch. 3 months had passed since the heart attack took him on that cold February morning. The car had been sitting in our driveway ever since, too painful for Mom to look at, too precious for me to let go. She said it reminded her of Saturday morning drives to the farmer's market and evening trips for ice cream when the summer heat became unbearable. But for me, this car held the ghost of a man I had spent most of my adult life trying to understand and failing. The interior was exactly as he had left it. His sunglasses folded neatly in the visor, a book of crossword puzzles wedged between the seats, and the radio still tuned to the classical station that had driven me crazy during the rare times he had picked me up from school. Everything was neat and organized, the way he had kept every aspect of his life, controlled, precise, emotionally distant. I had come to clean it out before the dealer arrived tomorrow morning. The task should have been simple: remove personal items, vacuum the seats, maybe run it through a car wash. But as I sat there, my hands resting on the steering wheel where his had been just months ago, I found myself paralyzed by the finality of it all. The glove compartment hung slightly open, as if beckoning me to explore its contents one last time. I pulled the small handle and watched as maps, registration papers, and maintenance records spilled into my lap, the practical remnants of a practical man who had never been one for sentimentality. But there, wedged behind the owner's manual, was something that made my breath catch in my throat. A cream-colored envelope, yellowed with age, with my name written across the front in handwriting I recognized as surely as my own reflection. The ink had faded to brown, and the edges were soft with time, suggesting it had been there far longer than I could have imagined. My hands trembled as I lifted the envelope from its hiding place, turning it over to find the seal still intact. Whatever lay inside had been waiting patiently in the darkness of that small compartment, like a secret too fragile for daylight, too precious to risk in the ordinary world beyond these vinyl seats. The paper whispered as I carefully tore it open, releasing a faint scent of old cologne and something indefinably masculine that transported me instantly to childhood, memories of being lifted onto his shoulders, of rough hands teaching me to tie my shoes, of a voice that rarely spoke of love, but somehow conveyed it in the careful way he remembered exactly how I liked my pancakes on Sunday mornings. I unfolded the letter slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs as I recognized the date written at the top in his precise handwriting. December 15th, 2003, 20 years ago. Just 3 days after my 18th birthday, 2 days before I left for college, amid the worst fight we had ever had. The fight that had created a chasm between us that neither of us seemed able to bridge in all the years that followed. The letter began without preamble, in the direct way that was so characteristically him. Son, I have started this letter 17 times in the past 2 days and thrown away each attempt. I am not a man who knows how to speak with his heart instead of his head, and I find myself struggling to find words that feel adequate for what I need to say to you. Tomorrow morning, you will leave for college, and the house will be quieter than it has been in 18 years. Your mother keeps trying to prepare, by cooking enough food to feed an army and reorganizing your room, as if keeping it exactly as you left it will somehow keep you from growing up and growing away from us. But I know better. I know that the young man who drives away from this house tomorrow will not be the same boy who returns at Christmas. I have been thinking about our argument the other night, the one that ended with you storming up to your room and me standing in the kitchen, angry and hurt, and more confused than I have been since the day you were born. You accused me of never believing in you, of always expecting you to fail, of being disappointed in the person you were becoming. And as I have replayed your words in my mind over and over, I have come to realize that you were both completely wrong and absolutely right. You were wrong because I have never doubted you, not for a single moment of your life. From the time you were old enough to walk, you approached the world with a curiosity and determination that took my breath away. You climbed higher, ran faster, and asked harder questions than any child I had ever known. You made friends effortlessly, stood up for kids who were being picked on, and showed a kindness that your mother and I never had to teach you. It was simply part of who you were. When you told us you wanted to study music instead of business, when you chose to spend your summers working at the community center instead of the internship I had arranged, when you decided to attend the state school because they had a better music program instead of the Ivy League university that wanted you, every time I watched you make choices that prioritized your heart over conventional success. And every time I was proud of you in ways I apparently failed to express. But you were also right, because in my pride, I became afraid. I was afraid that the world would not appreciate the qualities that made you special. I was afraid that choosing passion over practicality would leave you struggling in ways I had struggled when I was young. I was afraid that your kindness would be mistaken for weakness, that your artistic soul would be crushed by a world that values profit over beauty. And so I pushed. I questioned your decisions, not because I doubted your judgment, but because I wanted to prepare you for a world that might not understand you the way your mother and I did. I challenged your choices, not because I thought they were wrong, but because I wanted to make sure you had thought them through, that you were choosing them for the right reasons. But somewhere in all my pushing and challenging, I forgot to tell you the most important thing, that I believed in you completely, that I trusted your heart even when I questioned your choices, that I was proud of you, not in spite of who you were becoming, but because of it. I failed you in the most fundamental way a father can fail his son. I gave you my doubt when I should have given you my confidence. I gave you my fear when I should have given you my faith. I gave you criticism when I should have given you encouragement. The night you were born, I held you in my arms and made a promise that I would protect you from anything that could hurt you. But I never realized that sometimes the thing that hurts our children most is our own inability to show them how much they mean to us. You are leaving tomorrow, and there are things I need you to know before you go. I need you to know that watching you grow into the man you have become has been the greatest privilege of my life. Your compassion, your integrity, your willingness to stand up for what you believe in. These are not weaknesses to be overcome. They are strengths to be celebrated. I need you to know that every time you played piano, even when I seemed distracted by work or television, I was listening. Every song you learned, every melody you created, every moment you lost yourself in music, you were sharing a piece of your soul with us, and it was beautiful. I need you to know that the choice to study music is not a mistake or a phase or a luxury we cannot afford. It is you following the calling that has been written on your heart since you were small enough to climb onto the piano bench and reach for keys that were almost too far away. I need you to know that when I worried about your future, it was never because I thought you lacked talent or drive or intelligence. It was because I love you so much that the thought of you facing any kind of struggle or disappointment made me want to shield you from the world entirely. But most of all, I need you to know that I am sorry. I am sorry for every time my protection felt like criticism, for every time my love felt like disappointment, for every time my fear made you question your own worth. You asked me 2 nights ago if I was proud of you, and the fact that you had to ask breaks my heart into pieces I am not sure I can put back together. You should never have had to wonder. You should have known it as surely as you knew your own name. I am proud of you beyond words. I am proud of your talent, your kindness, your strength, your dreams. I am proud that you chose to be different rather than conforming to what others expected. I am proud that you listened to your heart, even when it led you down a path I did not understand. I am proud to be your father, and I am grateful every single day that God trusted me enough to let me raise you, even if I have made more mistakes than I care to count. Go to college, son. Study music. Create beautiful things. Follow your dreams wherever they lead you. And know that no matter how far you go or how long you are gone, you will always have a home here, and you will always have a father who believes in you completely. I love you more than I have ever been able to say. Dad. The letter blurred through my tears as I read it for the second time, then a third, each word settling deeper into the hollow spaces that 20 years of misunderstanding had carved in my heart. I could see him so clearly, sitting at his desk in the study, struggling with words that came so naturally to others but felt foreign in his practical, straightforward world. He had been right about so many things. I had studied music, just as he had feared and hoped. I had struggled, just as he had worried I would, spending years playing in dive bars and teaching lessons to make ends meet while chasing a dream that sometimes felt as elusive as moonlight on water, but I had also succeeded in ways he had never lived to see. My compositions had been performed by orchestras in 3 different states. My students had gone on to win competitions and earn scholarships. I had built a life around the thing I loved most, and though it had not brought me wealth, it had brought me a richness he would have understood if he had lived to see it. The years between that fight and his death had been marked by a careful politeness, a relationship built on surface conversations and avoided topics. We had talked about weather and work, about Mom's health and the neighbor's new fence, but never about the dreams I was chasing or the pride I desperately wanted to see in his eyes. I had played at his funeral, a piece I had written called Conversations We Never Had, and as my fingers moved across the keys, I had wondered if somewhere, somehow, he finally understood what music meant to me, why I had chosen it over everything else he had wanted for me. Now, sitting in his car with his words in my hands, I understood that he had known all along. He had known, and he had been proud. and he had loved me exactly as I was, even when his fear made it impossible for him to say so. The afternoon sun was beginning to fade, casting long shadows across the dashboard where his sunglasses still waited to shield eyes that would never again squint against the light. I folded the letter carefully and slipped it into my jacket pocket, close to my heart where it belonged, where it should have been all those years ago. I would not sell the car tomorrow. Instead, I would drive it home, keep it in my garage, and sometimes, when the weight of missing him became too much to bear, I would sit behind the wheel and remember that love is not always spoken aloud, but sometimes it waits patiently in the darkness, written on faded paper, sealed with hope, and delivered by time itself when we need it most. As I started the engine and backed out of the driveway, the radio came to life, filling the car with the opening notes of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, a piece I had learned to play when I was 12, a piece he had listened to countless times without ever telling me how beautiful it sounded. Now I knew he had been listening all along, and in the music that filled the space between us, I finally heard his voice saying all the things he had never been able to say aloud, that he believed in me, that he was proud of me, that love sometimes speaks in silence and waits 20 years to find its voice,